Welcome to the Family Builders Podcast. No matter what our family dynamic is, we can all use some help from time to time. Our hope and prayer is that this podcast is a help and a blessing to you each and every week. And now our host, Pastor David Moore, and co-host, Pastor A.J. Harold.
Hello, fellow builders. Welcome to another episode of the Family Builders Podcast. This is your host, Pastor David Moore from Lakeview Baptist Church in Newcastle, Oklahoma. And joining me, as always, is my good friend and faithful co-host from high atop the Hollywood Hills in his luxurious palatial Crystal Studios, Pastor A.J. Harold. Brother A.J., how are you all doing this week?
Hey, we're doing well. Got to spend some great time with my family, my younger kids. It's been a blessing. Good week.
Amen. That's good. Family time is always the best time. Amen.
Yes, sir.
Glad you're able to do that. And we're glad to be able to be back here with our listening audience this week. And just are thrilled to have you join us each week for sharing from the Word of God and from the experience that the Lord has allowed us to have in raising our families. I want to remind you, you can interact with us through our Facebook page, the Facebook group we have, through social media on Instagram, but also through our email, familybuilderspodcast at gmail.com. Feel free to pass along your questions, comments, prayer requests, any way that we can be of assistance to you. If you have any suggestions for topics or anything along that line, we'd love to hear from you at our email address. Thank you so much. For those of you who have taken advantage of that in the past, I want to encourage you to do that again in the future. Well, Brother Harold, do you have this week's builder's tip for us?
I do. And just a word of caution, not every builder's tip applies to each and every one of our listeners. And so if the shoe fits, wear it. If not, tuck it away and be a blessing to someone else with this information. But this week's builder's tip is plan and use your vacation time wisely. Plan and use your vacation time wisely. The reason I bring this up is there will be times when you get older, you younger parents, there will be times where you'll be able to live out that dream vacation. But I want to say there may be a season of life where your children are so young, even young teenagers, to where you may need to neglect the desire to do the spectacular and trade that in and just use your vacation time to be present with your children at their school events or even just church events. It could be camp. Using your vacation time to spend time with your family is not a bad idea. It's just a tip. It's just a thought. And Pastor Moore, it really comes from the convention I just went to. It was neat to see parents use their vacation time to spend time with their juniors, their younger kids, and just be present. It's not always available, not always practical, but when possible, maybe use your vacation time wisely that way.
That's a great builder's tip. A couple of things jump out at me about that. First, you said not every builder's tip applies to every listener. And I'm reminded, we came up with the idea of the builder's tip because I like to watch home renovation shows. And a lot of times they'll have a little tip for people renovating older houses and how to do certain things. And that doesn't always apply. But you always hang on to it because you never know when you're going to have that house with that particular thing. Well, family builders, you never know when that situation is going to apply to your life. So stack up these builders tips and use them. That's a great point. And then the other thing you said is about the using the vacation and you want to go on the dream trip. When my kids were little, we didn't go on any dream trips. Mainly because we couldn't afford to. But we would do things like we took a trip one time, just a 24-hour trip, my wife and I and our three oldest kids. We went to see the Little House on the Prairie scene in DeSmet, South Dakota. Now, I'll be honest, I don't think there's a lot of people that have DeSmet, South Dakota on their dream sheet of vacation dreams, Brother Harold. It's not Disney World. Okay. Another time we went to Duluth, Minnesota. Just something we could drive in just a few hours and spend the night in a hotel and just order some, cheap food and stay in an inexpensive hotel and just do some stuff with the kids. And that was the dream, to spend the family time. And so, just a great tip there, to use your vacation time wisely. Appreciate that, Brother Harold. Thank you for sharing that with us. I also want to remind our listeners of our sponsor, Midwest Christian Academy in Illinois. Midwest Christian Academy is a fully accredited homeschool organization. They will provide high school transcripts, diagnostic testing for your students, and a fully accredited high school diploma, assuming your student completes all their necessary work, and they'll have an accredited diploma from a homeschool organization. And so, just want to encourage you, look up MidwestChristianAcademy.com, use the code BUILDERS on the referral line, and receive a 50% discount on your first year's registration. Do good by your students and give them a biblical education. Do great by your students and enroll them in Midwest Christian Academy. Brother Harold, one more thing about your builder's tip jumped out at me.
Sure.
We've mentioned before, we don't typically discuss ahead of time what the topic is for each week's podcast.
Right.
We have not discussed this week's topic. In fact, listeners, right now it's 11:19 p.m. Central Time on Friday night, January 31st. This is going to air, Lord willing, if Brother Harold is able to get all the editing done and so forth tonight yet. This is going to air in about 10 hours, nine and a half to 10 hours. Which is, I think, the closest we've ever come with recording an episode, because of just some logistical things this week on both of our parts. But we haven't talked about the topic this week. But you mentioned about the seasons of life. Brother Harold, I've got my Bible open here for our text for this week, to Ecclesiastes chapter 3.
Wow.
Now, Brother Harold and I are both pastors, and we've done this before, where we have seen all the songs that the song leader picked, not knowing what the sermon was, and they lined up perfect with the message. Or the Sunday school lesson that the Sunday school teacher taught, they had no idea what the message was, and it lined up. Or the special speaker who had no idea what you'd been preaching, but it lines up perfect. And every single time, it gives me that little goosebumpy chill feeling on my back, right? So,
Call them
Brother
God
Harold,
bumps.
what's that?
I call them God bumps.
Yeah, when you said the seasons of life, I just about came unglued. I had to mute my microphone very quickly, but because that's what we're going to talk about today, the seasons of life. And here in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it." Now, the writer of the book of Ecclesiastes is, ironically, maybe not ironically, maybe on purpose, he's called the preacher. And when he's, of course, writing these things in Ecclesiastes, we believe he is inspired by God to write these things. And as he's going through all of these things about life and the seasons of life, what jumps out to me, Brother Harold, is that no season of life is just, okay, you do this one and then you leave that season and you never come back to it. there's times to laugh and then there's times to mourn, but eventually the mourning times will end and there'll be times to laugh again.
Right.
There's times that you're sick and there's times to be healed, but then there's other times you're going to get sick again and then you're going to get healed again. For every season of life, there's cycles, there's repetitions, there's things that you have to go through. And I wanted to just talk a little bit today, not so much about uh, the seasons of life as far as parenting, because we've talked about that pretty extensively. That's a large portion of the topics of our podcast. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the seasons of life of husband and wife. Um, we are this podcast will air on February the 1st. And if you are anywhere in America except Chicago, in February, you think of love and romance and Valentine's. If you're from Chicago in February, you think of the mafia committing a mass murder because of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. But
Mm,
we're a little different up there. But anyways, but everybody else thinks about love, right? I mean, I was talking to my wife today. I said, "Honey, what do you want for Valentine's Day?" And my wife may be a woman of the simplest tastes of anyone who's ever walked the face of the earth. Some women, they want flowers, they want diamonds, they want, expensive clothing, perfume. My wife, I think on her list, there was like a vacuum cleaner attachment and a plant.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, she does not make it easy, let me tell you. And the funny thing is, brother Harold, you and I both know there is zero chance I'm buying her a vacuum cleaner attachment for Valentine's Day.
Right.
There's no way any husband in the world is going to survive that kind of a mistake, even though it's what she said she wanted. It's on her list. There's zero chance. I've been married for 30 some years, 36 years this year. I am not a rookie at this. I'm not making that mistake, brother Harold. There's no way. There's no way. And when she listens to this on Sunday, honey, I want you to know I love you, but I'm not buying you a vacuum cleaner attachment for Valentine's Day. We can talk about that another time, but you're not getting that for Valentine's Day. But anyways, now, my wife, she when we got married, she was well, I'm not going to tell you how old she was. None of your business. But because then you could do the math and figure out how old she is now, and then I'd be in trouble. But when we got married, she was 36 years younger than she is now. I'll give you that.
Nice.
Again, not a rookie. Okay. In 36 years, there are some things that have not changed at all. There are still things. I remember when we were engaged, brother Harold. We were driving somewhere one day, and of course we were properly chaperoned in the car and everything. But we were driving somewhere, and all of a sudden, she yelled out some unintelligible phrase and hauled off and punched me as hard as she could. And I mean, she was a farm girl from Wisconsin, man. She had, milkmaid muscles. And man, she wailed on me, just blasted me. I was like, ow, what are you doing? Why did you just all of a sudden assault me? And she said, because of the car. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, well, you didn't see the punch buggy go by. And I'm thinking, I'm about to punch your buggy. What are you talking about, woman? Why are you hitting me? And this was some game, I guess Wisconsin in the country. I gotta remember, they don't have very much to entertain them up there. And so the way they entertained themselves was if you were driving and you saw a Volkswagen Beetle, that was a punch buggy or a slug buggy. And when you saw it, the first one to see it and call out, punch buggy, and then the color could punch the other person. A game brutal. I mean, the Romans probably played Punch Chariot in the Coliseum. Just a ridiculously violent game. And I was like, what is wrong with this one? I'm going to marry this woman and she's just going to randomly scream out something and punch me. I'm not sure this is going to work. Thankfully, she doesn't do that anymore. But she still has about that twisted of a sense of humor. There are still things that she just finds so funny. And I'm just like, what is wrong with you? It's, I don't mean inappropriate things or anything. She just, the corniest. And I don't mean corny like dad joke corny. I mean corny like dad jokes would be offended by how bad these jokes are. Corny. That kind of thing. She loves and just laughs hysterically at. That has not changed. 36 years. She's got the same sense of humor. Other things have changed. It's natural for things to change. But let me tell you, so a lot has changed on me in those 36 years, Brother Harold. When we got married, I had a full head of reddish brown hair. Now I look like a Q-tip walking around with white hair. That's changed. When we got married, I hadn't had 30 plus years of ministry stress weighing on me. I could sleep the sleep of the just back then. Now I sleep the sleep of someone with the weight of the world on their shoulders. Things have changed. Things have changed. We've gone through different seasons of life. Brother Harold, I've had the unpleasant circumstance of counseling married couples who have been married for 20, 25, 30 plus years and have sat down with me and said, Pastor, we're getting a divorce because we just don't love each other anymore. And my response is always the same. Why don't you just love each other? We have the world's mindset of love, that love is, when you see the beautiful girl or you see the handsome man, of course, depending on which one you are to begin with, right? We got to specify that today. But love is when you see that beautiful girl or that handsome man and you're struck by their beauty and you just think, I can't live my life without seeing that beautiful girl or that handsome man every day. But man, the seasons of life change. Brother Harold, I've seen your wedding photo. You've changed.
A lot.
You have the stress of being the father of 12 kids weighing on you now. And let me tell you, you've changed.
Yep, I have changed, but what's crazy is I'm still changing. The closer I look at who I am today, specifically regarding being a husband, to stay on track here, I realize how much more I need to change. And it's not change just, oh, for the better. No, no, no. To be intentional, to love my wife. And if I can say this, to be deserving of her love. It may not be the best
Yeah,
way to say it, but there's a reason she loves me or lacks love for me. And maybe it's because, you reap what you sow.
yeah,
And so years of sowing improperly get you to the 20-year,
right.
25-year, 30-year, and I don't love him anymore. I don't love her anymore. But love is not a feeling only, it's a choice.
It's a decision you make,
It
exactly.
absolutely is.
And the funny thing, and I don't mean funny like, ha ha ha, that's so, but just funny like odd, is that when the person gets to that 20-year mark or 25-year mark or whatever, and they say, I don't love them anymore, what they're saying is my initial feelings for them were so superficial that because of their change, I've changed.
Hmm.
If you genuinely love a person, their change won't cause you to stop loving them. Let me tell you, my wife does things that anger me sometimes. This I'm going to really share something personal here. This week, I woke up on Monday morning. Monday mornings are tough for pastors. I woke up on Monday morning to find my wife had broken the coffee pot. Start of the week, I have no coffee. I had to make a choice. Now, I was upset because it was not really necessary to break the coffee maker, but I still loved her. We get this idea because we're mad at someone, we don't love them. Did you know, Brother Harold, you can still love a person that you're upset with?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we still love our kids even when we're getting after them, when we're upset with what they did, right?
Yeah,
Get this, folks. You know Jesus Christ is your Savior, and you sin, you've upset him, but he still loves you.
right. And chastens you.
Yeah. And so the idea of loving a person is not exclusive to the idea of being angry with a person or upset with a person. It's not exclusive to the idea of, well, I don't like something that they did, or I was offended by something that they said, or why didn't he remember to do this thing he promised? Why didn't she remember to do this thing that she promised? You can still love that person in spite of their failings, as they love you in spite of your failings.
Right.
Because people, every second of your life is a season, and seasons come and seasons go. Brother Harold, I was talking to a man. He'd been married for about 10 years, and he and his wife had separated, and they weren't officially divorced, but they'd been separated for like 12 years. After being married for 10, they'd literally been separated longer than they'd been married. And he said this, he said, I've reached the point where of our separation where I'm ready to just move on with my life and just enjoy the next season. And I thought, boy, how sad is that? That he is going to try to enjoy the next season when he hasn't taken care of this season.
Wow.
We think because this season's unpleasant, I just want to get through it so I can enjoy the next season. When the fact is, if we'll take care of this season, there could be some enjoyment now.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, of course, in all these situations, we're talking about husbands and wives. There's two parties in that, right? You don't have any control over the other party, but you sure have control over yourself and what you do. So I want to just be an encouragement to our family builders this week, husbands and wives in particular, young people in serious relationships, young people in engaged situations. This is a season of your life. Today is a season. This hour that you're listening is a season. These moments are seasons. Seasons come, seasons go. Sometimes they come back again. You live through the season. You live for the Lord in that season. You take care of your family in that season. And then you go on to the next season. And when the first season comes back again, you do it all over again.
I often think of the verse James 4:14, whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away. So I say it this way: don't waste your vapor. Don't waste your vapor. I'm telling you, family builders, get ready to hit 25 years of marriage, and I'm trying to figure out how to make this 25 better than the last 25. And it's not because the last was great or horrible, or it doesn't really matter. It's forgetting those things which are behind. I have some improving and changing to do. And Brother Moore, it's a new season. It
Yeah.
just, it's a new season,
Yep.
and it ought to be exciting. The best is yet to come. I'm looking forward to what road lies ahead. So I appreciate the thought to everything. There's a season.
Yeah. And just real quick, just a one last thought on those seasons. I mentioned seasons come, seasons go, and then sometimes they return again, but sometimes they don't return again.
Right. I was thinking
And
that.
you know how much time we spend wasting longing for a past season, Brother Harold. The engaged couple, the season of wedding planning, which the bride loves and the groom, not so much.
Yeah.
Then you have that probably week or 2 week long session of the actual wedding season. The all the preliminary stuff, the rehearsals and the practices and the last minute scurrying and the travel plans and the honeymoon and stuff. And then you're settling into your home, new season. The planning the wedding season's never coming back. The honeymoon season's not coming back. But now you're in the season where you're husband and wife living in your home, no kids, just newlyweds, but without kids. And then the first kid comes along, and now you're parents. And then a second kid comes along, and you realize you learned nothing from the first kid. And you know what? You'll never go back to being that parent of the one kid. It's a new season. And then the toddler age, and you realize I knew nothing about being a parent. Babies were easy. Toddlers are proof of the sin nature. And then the toddlers grow up a little bit. They go to school, and now you're in a different season. And as each season approaches, the middle school years, the teenage years, the driving years, the boyfriend girlfriend relationship years, the college years, the moving out years, the empty nest years, each season is a season unto itself. Live that season for your family. Don't wish for the season past. Don't drive to the season future. In that season you're in now, build your family. Build your family. To everything there is a season. Family builders, what are you doing to build your family in this season?
I saw a volleyball team at a gas station today on our way back home. And I knew they were a sports team. They were all taller than me. It was incredible.
Just
And
to be clear, Brother Harold is 7'4". No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
but being a tall guy, I'm looking up to a couple of them in the gas station, and they all had their shirts on and their team logo
Mhm.
and it's volleyball team. And I didn't say anything to them, but I wanted to go to their van and I wanted to say, enjoy the moment
Yeah.
because I love volleyball, love basketball, played baseball.
Yeah.
And right now I'm thankful to watch it. I'm
Yes.
thankful to, I'm in a
New
different,
season right there, isn't it, Brother
that's it.
Harold?
That's it. I'm in a different season. But honestly, I do miss the past season. And this is mostly why I didn't appreciate it when I
Yeah.
had it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I wouldn't be able to run up and down a court. I'm in my mid 40s and people from my past, can you still dunk? I'm like, you're crazy. I could dunk donuts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, watch this cup of coffee and this donut. Yeah. Or this Oreo cookie. Yeah. Look,
But it
here's a
just,
reverse.
yeah, but it just makes me go, sometimes we've got to be reminded, slow down,
Yeah.
enjoy the process. You've been married 1 year, 1 month, 10
Right.
years, 30.
Right.
Enjoy the moment. After this recording, when we hit stop, I'm seriously going to go hug and kiss my wife and just thank her for being my wife for
Amen.
this
That's
season.
good. The you mentioned that about the volleyball team, and I had this thought too. So much of our identity becomes entangled with the season we're in now, with no thought to the season to come next. The person who's been a pastor their entire life, no thought to what they're going to do when they're not the pastor. They're just the person in church. The person who's been a parent, what they're going to do when they're not the parent, they're the grandparent. The person who's been married for decades, and then they lose their spouse, and now they're single, a widow or widower. No thought to that new season. Their identity is always going to be in that other season where they would consider the prime of their life. But listen, you cannot, just because you've suffered loss or just because you don't like a current season as much as you did the last season, you cannot not continue to build your family, whether your family is one person or your family is 13 people or 14 people, like the Heralds. You cannot, because of a changing of season, no longer build your family. You got to keep at it. It's a task worth doing. Family builders, I want to encourage you this week in this season of Valentine's, romance, and love. You know what? You ought to be just as romantic to your spouse in the heat of August as you are in the cold and snow of February. Every day, every hour, every minute is a new season. Brother Harold, that's all the time we have this week. If you don't have anything else for us, why don't you go ahead and take us out?
Sure. Thank you for listening to the Family Builders Podcast. Please subscribe and share this week's podcast with your friends and family. Also, if you have any questions for either of us, please do not hesitate to email us at familybuilderspodcast@gmail.com. Who knows? Maybe we'll even answer your question on one of our future episodes. Until next time, Family Builders, never let up.